Welcome to a bonus episode of the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. Today is going to be a shorty bonus episode, is what I'm going to call it. And you might find some more of these popping into your earbuds or in your cars or wherever you listen in the future, because I feel like I'm missing the frequency of weekly podcast episodes. But the shorty episodes aren't going to have full show notes on our blog, on the Savvy Shopkeeper website. It's just going to be me talking about things, hopefully 10 minutes or less. Frequency, who knows? I really don't know at this time, but I thought I'd mention it in case you start to hear me popping into your earbuds more often. So in today's episode, I really want to talk about this general message that I'm hearing or that I'm seeing being spread across the independent retail industry, that all store owners are down in revenue. And I'm seeing this in lots of places. But it isn't the truth. And if you are down, I am not discounting or dismissing this for you. More on that in a minute. But why do I feel that this is important to share? Well, this is important to share because the mindset of store owners is everything. And I'm going to keep talking about this. It all starts with your thinking. And if you're down in numbers and or people are telling you that everyone else is down, that the whole industry is down, and that this year is trending downward because of the economy or because of the election, and you're seeing lots of news articles and lots of stores closing, this isn't going to feel good to you. This is going to become a downward spiral, and I think it has for some of you already. So to contradict the general messaging that you're hearing, I recently ran a poll in Master Shopkeepers, and I asked this question. And maybe I'll do this in the future to my whole email list, because that's thousands of people that I can ask. But I did this in Master Shopkeepers. And of course, not every group member completed the poll. I don't expect them all to complete the poll all the time. And when I do run polls, I actually am really grateful that people in the group participate and they answer the question. And out of the poll, it indicated that over 45% are up right now, or even. They're either up or even, and not down. So for those of you that are down, I want to say two things. One, I did record a podcast episode about the effects on the retail industry during a presidential election year. And yes, for sure, things do get wonky, especially the months leading up to the election, and that's where we are. That was episode 195. So you'll go to savvyshopkeeper.com/195 to listen to that episode. However, the statistics show that historically retail sales and stores rebound after the election. This particular podcast episode is important because I don't want you to think I'm just being a Pollyanna over here, where I'm irrepressibly optimistic and that I find good in everything. Now, I do work at being optimistic, and I do take pride in that. Is it perfect? No. Am I always optimistic? No. So I get it. And I also have an intense appreciation for data and facts. And you'll notice I said and, not but. I'm not saying that I'm optimistic, but I also have an intense appreciation for data. I'm saying and. I think it's an and. And I think having both of those and appreciating both of those is that's what gets me forward in my own business. And number two, I want to talk about the trickle effect of our thinking, because this is where it begins for small business owners. It starts with what we're thinking. If you're so consumed with negative thoughts about a downward economy, and maybe you're finding yourself not hitting revenue goals that you set earlier in the year when you were really excited about 2024, and if you're thinking everyone is struggling and you're seeing all these stores closing, then this affects the way you feel. And that, the way you feel, I'm putting an emphasis on that, the emotion that takes over after you have a thought, that affects the action that you take. So let me use an example of two store owners in similar situations. They both have gift shops and they're down 10%. You might be listening and thinking that down 10% is no big deal, but to lots of retailers in their minds, 10% is a huge deal. 5% is a huge deal. In fact, sometimes just the fact that they're down at all can consume their minds. The percentage is kind of irrelevant for the sake of storytelling, but you know what I mean here. I'm just using an example of a store owner that's down. And they're down, when I say down, they're down in sales. So let's take store owner number 1. She sees this trend. She's starting to feel crappy about it, but she decides to tap into her creative thinking instead of beating herself up or blaming other circumstances or people for this situation. She shifts to a thought that helps her tap into her creative genius. And she starts to feel hopeful. She starts to run fun promotions. She hosts an event that really reinvigorates her. She surrounds herself with people that will keep her engaged and positive, because we all know how that is. If you're around other people that are thinking negatively and bringing you down and telling you that this isn't going to be possible and they told you that this retail store wasn't going to work and blah, blah, blah. But this particular person, she cut out the negative noise. She hosts team meetings that are getting her staff to have fun again. And then there's store owner 2. She gets sucked into the messaging that all retail stores are down right now, and she feels miserable. So she takes the path of a different action plan. Very different than store owner number 1, because when you're unhappy or angry or just vibing low, you don't have the energy. This is what you think. You don't have the energy to be optimistic, and you certainly aren't taking positive action. So she engages with other people who are spewing negativity about retail. She's drowning herself in reading negative media stories. She's scrolling on Facebook and Instagram for hours every day, seeing other stores close. And her brain becomes a vicious cyclone of impossibility. She defers to blame. Now, every single situation in her store, from a customer service issue to missing a daily sales goal, it becomes validation for what everyone is saying. Her retail store can't possibly survive this year. So you see that these 2 store owners are on very different paths and will end up in different places. And it all starts with their thoughts, because what they think makes them feel an emotion, and that emotion drives their action. This isn't just happening in the retail industry either, just so you know. This is happening across other small business industries. I see it in Facebook groups for businesses like Savvy Shopkeeper, in online education or service-based, or all the creators, the educators, the coaches, the consultants. I see it in that space too. So I think that's important to note. Sometimes we think it's only retail, but I see this happening in so many places. So it really is time to wrap this up, this shorty bonus episode. I have data that some retailers are up, right? I shared a stat with you. I have data that some are down. And I see that some retailers are experiencing the wonky trend of different consumer behavior before the upcoming election. It happens. If you listen to episode 195, I think that's the episode I said it was. If you listen to that episode, you're going to see that it happens. And sometimes just being aware that that happens, and maybe that's what's happening right now, can calm your thinking. So those are facts. Some are up, some are down, some are even. Now, what you choose to think about all of this and about your own business is up to you. You can make it seem business ending, or you can view it as another bump in the road in the life of an entrepreneur. Regardless, what you choose to think will determine the way you feel. And that will lead to the type of action you take in your business for the rest of this year and moving forward. So I just want to say that one more time for those of you that are multitasking. What you choose to think about this situation, it will determine the way you feel, and those emotions will lead to the type of action you take in your business for the rest of this year and moving forward. So don't use misinformation or disinformation as your driving force. that means you're giving up your power to someone else. Until the next episode, be savvy and boss up.